Hello, Culture Matters Podcast. You are in for a treat today. I can't wait to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this podcast. He who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche. Our guest has vision. They're an author multiple times. They're a friend of the Culture Matters podcast. If you don't know them on the Culture Matters podcast, you either don't listen to the podcast or you're not paying attention. They're a leader in not only their industry, which is the mortgage and banking industry, but a leader of men and women alike, online and offline. Any room that they're in, they take command, they take control, and they point people into the future. They're founder of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching and author of this amazing book. We're talking about chapter 6 today. High Selling is a Drug. Clearly a maverick with a title like that. Chapter 6 is Failure to Sustain. Welcome back to the Culture Matters Podcast, Christine Beckwith. I am so in love with this book. I was reading it last night to get ready for this episode, revved up, talking about sales, operations, not only making money, but keeping the money. So, what is failure to sustain? Well, it's a timely subject.
Well, I felt that in a book on high performance, because to be clear, this book is going to speak to people that are reading it that want to sell better, right? I mean, naturally, that's the focus. Um, but it is going to make someone realize they either aren't doing the things they need to be doing, even if they're good. I hope it's attracting good and great people. This is a book that will make a new person probably feel intimidated, but still give them the playbook and the roadmap. Um, I have always been able to assemble, a high performing sales team. And it didn't matter, looking back, whether I was putting a 10 or 15 person, loan originator team together, or I was building a national sales force, by branch by branch, whether that was through acquisition or recruiting and vetting properly, and betting on winning racehorses that paid out, which I unpack somewhere in the book as well. But failure to sustain, I'm going to use sports, and I do this throughout the book as an analogy. I use fishing and I use racing cars. Like those are my three big analogies I go back to again and again in this book because there's so many, parallels. High performance sports, it's not about a 1 day high performance. It's not, athletes don't go perform 1 day or 1 week or 1 month. Um, and if they, did well, that 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month, and now they're, considered to be successful. Success is about sustaining. And there is a chapter in here called No One Hit Wonder. And I kind of unpack the place in my own career where I became successful at a really high level and I overcome some tremendous odds. And um, I knew that it was like my first true win, even though at the 20-year mark, which is where it was happening in my career, I had consistently been a top performer as an individual originator. And then with a team, I was also. This was at a bigger level, at a district level, very hard to get 125 people to kind of move in a top performance direction. And I unpack it in the book in great detail because when you need to make yourself successful, it's one thing. When you need to make other people successful, it's a completely different thing. I know companies that, and I say this also in the book, that hire the best quarterback, the best sales guy for the next leadership position because it's a mirage. They're like, well, he can do it or she can do it. So, let's put her in a leadership seat. And, they're setting the person up for failure. And this isn't an all or nothing statement. Not every quarterback fails in the leadership position. I just think they're not vetted properly. They're not interviewed right for the next step towards leadership. Because the qualities aren't just the ability to produce well. I do say I would never promote a leader that didn't produce well in a sales management position because loan originators don't want to work for somebody that can talk good. or show up consistently. They want to work for somebody that's done what they've done and done it well and proven and been proven. There's a proof of life there. And I learned that early on in my career. And I also was vetted that way when I was trying to get into leadership myself. People looked at my production for those advancements. I say all of this because when you get successful, your ability to recreate that, like if you take winning sports teams that have a good year, um, I'll use the Philadelphia Eagles as an example. When they won the Super Bowl a few years back for the first time in a very, very long time, excuse me, everybody said, wow, they had a good year. And people that didn't love the Eagles were quick to kind of like, crap on that win and just say, well, let's see what they do next year. Um, we know that a team's ability to get momentum, work together, a lot of things got to go right to be successful. A lot of things got to go right to be a winner and be winning and win consistently. And so I hope my book tells the story throughout the whole book because I do share my personal career in between the chapters in little brief snippets. I know people believe when I say what my resume looks like, but they weren't there. A lot of people weren't there. The average person that's in the mortgage industry has been in the industry like 10 years, the average loan officer today. And so I can tell the grandpa walked up, the hill both ways barefoot in the snow stories, and they may believe me. But I also originated for 20 years pre uh, originator licensure, so there's no way for them to look at my volume numbers. So anybody can tell a story prior to 2008, and who knows if it's believable. And I wanted this book to vet me and also, to the reader, like that might be saying, well, what the hell has she done that makes her think she's so smart about what she's saying? And so I go back to my first origination job. And I mean, I talk to each and every single manager that's face appears in this book whose paragraph about what they did for me in my career and what I accomplished under their management. And it's the ride. It goes all the way to now. Um, and so failure to sustain shows up in chapter 6 because a lot of people cannot sustain and recreate success. The variables change in our industry every single year. You're in a different market, you're selling a different way. Um, I would tell you our industry is failing by and large by loan originators that have never lived in a rising rate environment, who lack economic knowledge. Not afraid to say that either. Um,
Mhm.
2020 Vision spends a ton of time teaching economics. It's one of our business fundamental classes that you have to take to get to a master student level. We unpack historically the differences between markets that have some of the same effects, but not the causes. And then we get into that because in order to overcome consumer objection right now for inept homeowners, sorry, homeowners that are sitting on those low rates like they laid the golden egg because they love that lower mortgage payment and have tunnel vision while they're sitting with zero money in the bank or depleted cash reserves and, just absolutely bloated that at the 36 to 40 month mark over the average time that they would refinance 10-year wise for a 40-year historical stat. They themselves can't see how they're financially drowning and they only look at their mortgage for the interest rate and they don't look at the bigger fiscal position. They don't realize they're not even going to qualify for the best interest rate if rates drop tomorrow because they look a higher risk. How they looked when they got that low rate was different than how they look today financially. Their DTI is probably through the roof. We know this to be true because of the the national debts. So what you did to win last time is not going to be the same to win this time. And to get to be a high performance coach, I am beating repetitively into the heads of the salespeople that hire me what it's going to take this year because what they did to win the last 4 years will not be the same. And I quote Gay Hendricks, the author Gay Hendricks, in this chapter, who wrote a book called The Genius Zone, very famous book. In that book, there's a chapter called The Upper Limits. And it talks about the prevalence of failure when people reach success. And some of it's psychological because people will unwind their success because they're exhausted at the top of the mountain. and they want to stick the flag in the top and beat their chest for a minute, and they cannot repeat what it took to get to the top of that mountain. They don't want to do it. They're exhausted from it. That's one component of failure to sustain, which I go over in this chapter. I get tactical in this chapter too, and I'll tell you that I not only tell them about the theory of failure to sustain, the variables of achieving annualized success, but I get into an audit. I give you a full on audit written out, every aspect of looking at your business. This could apply to a person that has a 7-Eleven store, a person that has a coaching company, a person that's an originator, or a person that's running an entire bank with 1,000 originators. And this, for me, was how I audited my sales teams for 24 years. I was taught this auditing system. I'll give credit to H&R Block, the biggest accounting firm in the world. This is how they audited themselves, their businesses, and this is how we audited our branches. Fundamentally, it's every component of putting the dipstick in your car to check the oil so you know whether you're ready to get out there and race or not. And every single individual business owner should be stopping to do this. I do this for 2020. I do this for all the businesses I own, and I make the people that are here do this as well in the fourth quarter. And so it's part of my playbook. It will change what you decide your business plan should look like this year because it won't be theoretical. It'll be practical, logical, applicable. You can make pragmatic risk choices based on actual stats. Um, and I give it away because this book is my giveaway book.
I just looked up the statistics. According to most available data, a very small percentage, likely less than 10% of top 1% income earners consistently maintain their status in the 1% for a decade or more.
Right. Yeah. I knew when I got to the end of the district management, because I had been promoted from branch manager to area manager to district manager over like a 5-year period. In order to do that, I had to be one of the top originators to get to the area manager. I had to get to branch manager, sorry. I had to survive an acquisition where a company came in and was going to cull 11 New England branches down to 4, and I was the least tenured branch manager. Pretty sure the night before I went in to present to the new owners that I'd never done a PowerPoint. I know that night I was working with PowerPoint for the first time. I was up till 4 a.m., by the way. By the way, I did a ridiculous PowerPoint. I figured out how to make sound. This was really funny. When you like push the button, my friggin' PowerPoint was so noisy. Like every single button you pushed, every letter or sentence or anything that appeared had noise with it. I would never do that today, but it was cute back then. And probably everybody in the room was like, she just stumbled upon this app and like used every whistle that there was on there. Nonetheless, even then, as a young 27-year-old branch manager, in front of 10 male branch managers, the only female branch manager, in front of all male new owners, in a room with people that were older than me, with less tenure as a manager, and brand new to this company. This happened within 90 days of me showing up and being hired as a branch manager. They sold. They had been around for like 20 years. It was just bad timing on my part. Um, I had said what will speak to these new owners because I don't have tenure. I don't have a history. They're not going to see me in the reports that the company's handing over. I'm the only woman. And I got up and I said, look, I don't want to be picked because I'm a woman and you need diversity. I'm going to say this in front of my male counterparts because I know everybody sitting in this room is silently thinking I may be saved for that reason. And I'm letting you know, please don't do that. Please don't do that because it won't help me win with my peers. I want to be looked at on my potential. And I said, I know you have a really tough job to do right now to pick from 11 branches. And I know there's a lot of people on paper that look better than I do right now. So I'm going to tell you why you should choose me and my team. And I said, when I got here, I was given probably the worst territory in the state because all the other territories were taken. And I'm in northern Worcester County. It has the lowest average loan balance in the state, but it is rich in government and B and C paper loans, and those margins are thicker. And so I am doing profit at a 1 times 3 level of these guys sitting in this room. And so for every loan I write, they have to write 3 loans. And my team is not new. We are an established team that we're together. And so here's what our numbers look like prior to being here. And I'm going to tell you the tenure of my LOs and what I think their potential growth is and my potential growth is. And I know that's like betting on something that's like a promise with a person you don't know. But I promise you, standing here, you're never going to find somebody that's going to work harder. And if you watch my career, you are going to see somebody that for the rest of my life is going to be winning. And I said very bold statements. I would go on, they did pick me when they cut the 11, the 6 or 7 branches. I was one of the 4 that was chosen from that presentation at 27. I would go on to become a regional vice president there and oversee the Chicago, Denver, and Atlanta markets, in addition to New England. And I did so well with those that I became the senior vice president of sales. Now, the owners that sold me were really impressed that day with that presentation. When I called them to write this story and put them in this book, Rob Edelstein, Steve Edelstein, Steve Channon, I said, it's Christine Buffton, which was my prior name, where Buffy comes from. And I said, I'm writing a book about high performance. And the gentleman that had hired me said, we have been watching you your entire career. And there has never been a more true statement than the statements you made in that room. And one thing you can say is when you make a promise, you mean it. And we would be honored to be in your book. We were honored to be a rung in the ladder of your career. We've witnessed your, tenacity and all of those things. So I'm not bragging. I don't think I'm a cocky person or conceited person, but I'm very confident in my wins, and no one's ever going to take those away from me because those were hard fought. I don't really care what people think if they think I pound my chest at times because I know what it took for me to sustain success, and I am the perfect person to teach other people how to do it. Because of my strategy, my economic knowledge, my understanding of this industry, the wisdom I have today. And I would go on to lead large groups for the next 24 years, national teams to great success. I made a lot of people a lot of money. And that's why I'm popular in this industry because I have those people that are going to stand up and raise their hand. I'm making people money right now that were struggling a year ago before they got to 2020 vision, and they're winning. They're winning in this market right now over minutia type of moves. Just a little bit of a dial. Instead of the dialogue when the client calls and says, are the interest rates going to come down? Can I get a matched interest rate? A simple sentence. Lead with what is your debt? What is your cash position? Then we'll talk about your interest rate. Because right now, the full picture of your financial sovereignty, your ability to withstand anything that's coming financially for you in the next 2 years, the answer is in those 2 things. And so if you have equity in your home, we have the answer to cure and put you in a better financial position. We'll grab that low interest rate when it hits rock bottom. You'll be in a better position for it and ready to get the very best of the bottom of that barrel. And we can do it twice for pennies on the dollar cost. But loan officers don't even know how to say that. Like 80% of the loan officers, I'm sorry, loan officers that are out there, they don't know how to overcome the rate objection. They don't, they themselves have tunnel vision. It's all they've ever done. They've sat like monkeys serving an industry, and if they look at the person's rate, they could get them a lower rate, they did a loan. A monkey could do that. That's not selling. That's not mortgage expertise. That's not helping the homeowner only. It isn't the only thing, rather, that helps a homeowner. And so my people are charging the mountains with confidence. They're high performers, I would argue. They're not good, they're great. They're going towards excellence in sales. I think their careers will forever be changed. And so I wanted to pay credence in this book to the people that gave me a shot, who believed in my potential before I had proven myself, and even those that knew I was proven and gave me another shot because they trusted me with large amounts of money and large amounts of responsibility. Um, and that's it. You have to learn how to sustain success, or it will evade you. And we know where the Eagles are right now, right? And so,
Well, and on that note, that's a
yeah.
great example because I know the culture advisor who was the coach of the coach. I had the honor, the opportunity to, I know them.
Goodness.
And just say, for those that don't understand, the Eagles in that year when they won, their coach had a culture advisor. Their coach had a culture coach, and one of the best in the industry of that industry. And they're hopefully they'll come on the show soon. And what a testament to the work that you do with your customers, your clients, Christine, because what a great, I know we didn't talk about that before. Use that example. It's like, that's a team that, yeah, they won in that year. Well, I know for a fact they had help. So whoever the owners of that company are, the shareholders, they thought it was valuable to have somebody like you help their CEO. Because the chief is the coach that's helping figure out the strategy and the culture. One thing I learned from the great Pittsburgh Steeler team was the process was the purpose, the goal was the relationship, and the plan was in God's hands. That was the mantra that the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, they won four back-to-back Super Bowls. One of the team members that's living at Cole told me that. The purpose of the process, the goal was the relationship, and the plan was in God's hands. That was their culture. So anyway, just I think the audience should know that these teams that win, like this Super Bowl win from a team that hadn't won, wasn't a winning team. They brought in somebody like you to help their leader. And with that, I challenge everyone that's listening this, pick up a copy of High Selling is a Drug. Go listen to chapter 1 through 5. This is chapter 6 we're on. And stay tuned. We have some more chapters coming out. And please share this with a friend that needs to get high in business, be a top performer, leader. Christine, thanks for coming back to the show. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast.
Thank you.